everyone, I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net, and Deadline has a really fascinating scoop today. And that's that basically it looks like Sabine Wren has been cast. And if you want my opinion, it's a pretty big part that's obviously going to end up showing up in a few of these different shows. So it's probably a bigger deal than just Ahsoka, even. But what Deadline reports is that, and by the way, this writer for Deadline has had solid Star Wars scoops in the past. I think that's worth noting. Star Wars Ahsoka, Natasha Liu Bordizzo to play Sabine Wren in Disney Plus series. And I could be wrong, but I think she's Australian. But I could be wrong about that. But exclusive, Natasha Liu Bordizzo, The Society, has been cast as a lead opposite Rosario Dawson in the Disney Plus limited series of Star Wars Ahsoka, a spinoff from the streamer's hit series The Mandalorian, I have learned. I hear Bordizzo will be taking on the character of Sabine Wren from the Star Wars Rebels animated series. Reps from Lucasfilm and Bordizzo did not return emails seeking comment. Dawson stars as Ahsoka Tano in the limited series after making the Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels character live-action debut in The Mandalorian, blah, 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 blah. And there's no additional information. Talks about the Purgles or whatever the hell, took Homeboy from Rebels, Ezra Bridger, into the outer reaches with Thrawn, and how that's essentially what it's setting up. So, but important breaking news, AJ is listening to the Weezer Summer Songs 2000, which would have been a great Weezer record had they not just spread all of the good content of that over 4 records. But anyways, back to Sabine. So pretty good stuff. I am glad to hear that we have something that we could really like bite into and go like, okay, this is real. This is like legit Star Wars, casting going on that definitely has some legs to it. Because if Deadline reports it, it's really probably 99.9% true. Unless and if it doesn't happen, then something happened, and there's something there to explore. And a few weeks ago, I was talking to a couple of people that I know in the industry, and I was hearing that a Star Wars Ahsoka was going to be filming until the end of next year, and it was going to be a pretty big production, and that basically they were going to make the Ghost and Hera. So I would imagine we should be hearing about who's been cast to play Hera in the next casting will probably be Hera, I would imagine. And because if we have Sabine, we're gonna have Hera, and then obviously some of this seems obvious. Like there's been people that have been rumored to play Ezra, and it seemed like that was the case. But we'll have to see how it goes. We'll have to see if that stuff ends up panning out. I think it really could be legit on the Ezra stuff, but I really don't know. And but hopefully we get some casting announcements soon. Now that they're starting to happen, maybe they will sooner than later let us know who's playing who. But hard to say with these cats. I just wanted to jump on really quickly though and give you guys an update about this because it was kind of a weird news day where we're analyzing the Boba Fett costume for 2 hours. And then we finally got something, pretty exciting here on the casting front. And I'm just glad to see that it is going that way, that this is happening. And I think she is going to make an excellent Sabine. And I could definitely see it looking really good. I could definitely see her in the costume and it working, and it's going to be kind of fascinating because Sabine is such a different Mandalorian than the ones that we have met in the Mandalorian TV show, being that she's an artist and a graffiti artist and stuff like that. I think it just kind of gives some interesting kind of thing, some interesting takes on the Mandalorian concept. And in live action, it won't be as cartoony is the nice way of putting Star Wars Rebels, kind of takes on the characters at times. So, hey, how's it going, Rob? Figures that would drop right after the show. Yeah, that's how it goes. That's how Fridays, like classically, Fridays are always when all of the stuff for the work week is getting signed and things are getting finalized. And that's when things tend to drop in the past was Friday afternoon, but here we are after 2 hours of doing the main show. We get some actual casting news. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments and all that stuff. If you guys think it's pretty good casting, and we're definitely going to be covering it over the next couple of days, I would imagine. Who is doing the casting for this Ahsoka show? I'm not sure who the casting director is. I actually don't know. That's always been, I've said this a million times, that's always been like my weakest thing, is kind of like the casting news, because I tend to get my news from the people I know who are already working in the industry once the production has started. And getting stuff before it can be pretty difficult, you know, at least for me anyways. And so I'm not sure who the casting director is, but I would not be surprised to learn that it's probably somebody who's already worked on the previous stuff. I don't know that, but would not surprise me. Been loving the show, by the way. It's been really good, but the last couple of days. Excuse me. You're having allergies today. But Wesley says it's fantastic casting. Jonathan agrees. Hopefully I live to make it to see the show. I think I'm going to make it, you guys. I think I'm going to live. But yeah, but let me know what you guys think in the comments and all that kind of jazz. And Lars is Thrawn? I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know that Lars is Thrawn. And I had more than one source come to me and say, just so you know, Star Wars Rebel stuff is accurate. It's going to be happening. I saw some stuff about the Ghost and about Hera. And I asked about casting. And when I asked about casting, this was now, I want to say, I could be totally wrong, but I want to say about 6 weeks ago now. They were like, I don't think so. They didn't think that the roles had actually been cast yet. And I am now of more of the opinion, based off of this deadline piece, that the roles are being fulfilled now. It doesn't mean that people haven't been cast for months. It doesn't mean that at all. But it does tend to, they do seem to kind of like go with sort of an ensemble approach at times, if it's an ensemble piece. And these are defined characters. So I think that they kind of know what's up, like what to expect. And in that, they are going to want to see how these people probably work together. So Jordan says, how do you think the chemistry will be between her and Mena Massoud? Is Massoud even Ezra is the question at this point. Because when he was doing that, he did an interview recently. I had it on the show. I played it. I did not get the vibe he had the gig. And if he did have it, that was some serious like walking back. And he even said that the previous stuff was him like pushing for it. I'm not convinced. I would not be surprised if he was Ezra, but I'm not convinced he's Ezra either at the same time. You know? And then $3 asks, how far along are we with the Mando 3 filming? Mando technically started in late September, but in my opinion, it really, really got rolling about 2 weeks ago. You know, it was kind of a slow start, and there was the strike looming and stuff like that I think kind of made it go even slower. In the past, by the end of October is when it really starts ramping up and really moving. And then when we get into like November up to Christmas, it films pretty heavily. And then when we get to the next after Christmas break, they come back and they probably go to about March. But it seems like, my experience is with the exterior train yard set down there in El Segundo. And so that does color a lot of my perspective on it, because I can't see what they're doing in the volume ever, obviously, unless I get something leaked to me. And and depending on how much is in the volume and how much is an exterior shot outside, it does change. Like season 1 did a lot more than season 2. A lot more at the train yard, that is. And which is just down there off of Rosecrans. And you know, it's like a McDonald's by there. That's really close to it, and a nice coffee place. It kind of makes going down there kind of nice, because I like that McDonald's coffee in the morning. I can't lie. But how do you think the chemistry will be? And yeah, that one I think is just impossible to answer. And so 3 Bucks says, I hope casting is done for Mando 3. Yeah, like when it comes down to that kind of stuff, like for instance, I can't say anything. I don't want to say too much. I know of people who have been up for roles in Star Wars. And what's interesting about right now is when you go and you are going to be doing a live action Star Wars show in Manhattan Beach, you don't actually know which series you're working on. I'm sure if you're a big actor who's going for a huge role, like I think that's different. It's probably like Dave Filoni probably calls you up and says like, "Hey, you want to do Star Wars Ahsoka?" But when it comes down to like when you're like just a normal average size role, smaller to average size role, they're not telling most people. And I know people for various roles that had been up for big and small roles, and they didn't know if it was for Mando or if it was for Ahsoka or what. They're like, and the only thing that I think they know is that it's going to be filming here. So they're not like, hey, you want to try out for this role? Okay, now you're going to England. You're going to Pinewood. I don't think they're doing that to them. But I just because I've actually had people who are up for roles be like, hey, you have any idea what I'm up for? And I'm like, oh, I hope you get it because you are leaky. You know what I mean? But Silver Blue says, with Doctor Strange filming in LA after filming in London for the whole movie, do you think that's using the volume? That's a good question. The only thing I know is that I heard about 3-4 weeks ago now that they were going to be filming a ton of Star Wars stuff in Manhattan and in El Segundo, and they were looking for more space and that they needed to build another volume, and they want to build more. They really want to be able to do a lot of stuff at one time. And so I don't know if that means like for each production or whatever, but people who work in the industry were being told like we have like around 10 productions coming in the next short amount of time. I don't know if it was like a year and a half or something like that. And so it was a ton of work for them, and it was believed to be Star Wars. And so I don't really know how that ends up. I'm not saying that means that means it's all Star Wars. Like there was what's that Children of Blood and Bone. There's all these things that Lucasfilm is doing and stuff with Willow. Like it could be a lot of different things. So I don't want to overstate anything, but it does appear that there's going to be a ton of Star Wars content being made in the next year or so, and more than even what we know. I think it was Dirk Diggler, I think was his name. But yeah, and so I imagine that we're going to have a lot of Star Wars content being made, and I would not be surprised if like this role, like Sabine here, I mean, she could be in the Mandalorian, because like I've talked about a spoilery sequence towards the end where there's like 50 to 100 different Mandalorians being used in the same sequence, and they're all like different. Like some of them have like very patchwork kind of armor and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like it's all kinds of different things, different pieces of armor, and it does not appear that they are all like together, but they have united in some way. I don't think they're fighting each other, but it would surprise me if they didn't introduce Sabine in that moment. And a part of me wonders, and this is conjecture on my part, obviously, this is not my scoop, this is Deadline scoop, and this is purely conjecture. What if she's going to be introduced in that Mandalorian sequence? She could be off doing the Ahsoka looking for Ezra jazz, and that's why she's not there. There may be an in-universe answer as to why she's not in the Mandalorian episode that we're about to get in that season. But and when I say introduced, I mean like we may see her pop up there for the very first time in a moment, and then her characters in the Ahsoka series, where she actually has a starring role. You know, it would not surprise me if that's what ends up happening, especially with Dave Filoni being responsible for both of these episodes. So I'm about to have a Mike Pence moment. I have a fly in here. But anyways, yeah, it's pretty. I'm so excited, honestly, to finally be getting this news. Wesley White says, unrelated, but when do you think we'll see our first look at Hayden in the Obi-Wan show? I don't know. I would imagine that if they may want to keep that for the show, they may want to do a really creepy like reveal. You know what I mean? With him all hooked up to his breathing apparatus and stuff. Hard to say. Jonathan says, it's really interesting how they are expanding the Mandalorian lore with different factions. Sabine brings another dynamic. Yeah. And I mean, especially when we have like the occult, that Din Djarin. I hate the name. Sorry, gotta say it every time. It's so dumb. But Din Djarin and his cult, and then we have the Death Watch, and then we have Sabine, who's sort of more of a rebellious artist version of a Mandalorian in the end. But yeah, there's a lot of interpretations coexisting at the same time. I honestly think it's really smart, because if you're like one of those people who likes like the rigidness of Klingons, you get that this is the way, I must not take my mask off like bullshit. And then you also have the ability to jump over and have Sabine and Boba Fett. I mean, totally two different concepts of a similar thing, So yeah, I think it's all pretty fun. But there's a stolen car chase fiasco going on near my house, is what my friend just texted me. That's a good time. I have to go pick up my kids in 2 minutes. But I just wanted to let you guys know what was going on in terms of this casting news that broke right now. And I told you if something happened, I jump back on. And so I am. Stay away from Delamo and Bloomfield. All right, I'll do it. Drummer friend. So anyways, yeah. But great news before the holiday weekend to have a nice Star Wars scoop. I love Star Wars Rebels. It is, in my opinion, can be very flawed at times because of the place where it had to be developed, which was Disney XD, and it had to adhere to some of that silliness, and there was a lot of friction behind the scenes at times, from what I understand, about that stuff, and trying to make really good Star Wars in that context. I think that they did a good job considering, but I also think that the characters are better than the show. I think the concepts were stronger than the show was able to deliver, and I am jazzed that we're going to see these characters coming into the live action television, and Filoni won't have his hands tied. Like I said, walked up to Filoni on the street in San Diego one day, saw him down there, and was like, "Hey, man," we started talking, and he pretty much said that like they on Star Wars Rebels he had no money, and he was not super jazzed about it. He was super nervous about how fans were going to take it. And luckily the first episodes had enough heart that I think it carried it. And people were like, okay, this is great, and it wasn't as rigid as the Clone Wars could be in terms of the emotional side. It had a lot more heart to it, but which it kind of got annoying at times. We're all family, I don't think that shit's going to fly in live action. And I hope they don't try to pull that. You could let us feel that, but you can't tell us that. Just telling us that a bunch of times would get super old, and I don't think that's going to happen here. But I'm definitely excited to see Sabine Wren in live action, and I'm glad that it's happening. And hopefully we learn who's playing Ezra and Hera next, and most of all, who's playing Chopper. No, it's going to be Dave Filoni, of course. But I will see you guys either on Monday or over the weekend. And me and Rob will be back tomorrow night doing a UFO show about 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to jump on and talk about spooky stuff with us, it'll be a good time and something cool to do before the holiday weekend. and your spooky relatives come to creep you out with their spooky ideas. But I'll see you guys. Thanks again, and make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and have notifications on about when I go live, so that way you can join me and tell me I have bad ideas. Thanks again.
It's not about spaceships.
Making Star Wars.